Hello, hello.
Bonjour, ça va bien?
Ouais, vous?
Oui, est-ce que vous m'entendez? C'est parfait.
Oui, c'est parfait.
Excellent. C'est
OK.
bon. Mon collègue Winnie, il va arriver sous peu.
OK. Ça commence à 1h30. Pas beaucoup
Oui,
de
c'est ça.
temps.
Exact. Et aussi, on a les documents, on a le script. Fait que c'est parfait.
Ah,
Excellent.
parfait.
Merci beaucoup.
T'as toutes les choses que tu avais besoin?
J'ai vu qu'il y a aussi des présentations de, de 10 minutes. Si vous avez des diapos, on est ouvert à ça aussi, mais sinon, c'est correct.
Non, il n'y a pas comme du PowerPoint ou
C'est
des choses
ça.
comme ça. Non,
OK.
c'est
Ben,
juste
c'est
du
parfait.
pâle.
Exactement. Ben, c'est
Je pense
excellent,
que
on a tout. Oui,
je pense que presque tout le monde est anglais.
OK.
Mais je
Fait que
sais
ce sera
pas
vers...
pour certain, mais je pense que oui, parce que des fois c'est les deux langues.
Mhm,
Et ça change par chaque
exact.
personne.
OK,
Mais je pense que presque tout le monde est anglais aujourd'hui.
OK. C'est
Et,
noté.
hmm, j'essaie de trouver si on peut faire les comme sous-titres. Pas
Mhm.
vraiment les sous-titres, c'est
Oh, les captions?
ouais, ouais. Et je
Euh,
sais pas si on peut faire si il y a comme plus qu'une langue.
oh, I have no idea. Oh, by the way, we can speak English if that's
But it's good for me to
easier.
practice too, but to
OK, OK.
explain things is
Yeah.
easier in English. But
Je
I'm
ne sais pas, je
Et
ne
aussi,
sais pas
toi, tu peux
comment.
parler en français avec moi, comme je comprends mieux que je parle, mais,
D'accord,
but
excellent.
I'm looking. I know you can have them, but if I'm speaking English, et comme
Mhm.
ça, changer en français, comme,
Si le transcript est dans les deux langues. Euh,
hmm.
hmm.
Est-ce que toi, tu as déjà vu quelque chose comme ça?
Non, c'est ça, je
Non?
regarde un peu sur mon application, mais quand le transcript est produit,
Oui.
est-ce que vous savez où où le retrouver dans les
Euh,
documents?
hmm,
Parce qu'on peut faire
non.
un essai, on peut faire un essai en parlant les deux langues et ensuite vous fermez la présentation et on regarde si vous
Oui,
trouvez.
on peut faire après, comme
Mhm.
avec les vidéos, on peut ajouter après, mais quelqu'un a
OK.
demandé si ça peut fonctionner comme pendant la présentation, et je pense que non,
Oh, OK, OK.
comme simultaneous. Like,
Transcript.
yeah,
I've never seen it, but I'm on the interpreter end, so I don't
yeah.
even have them activated for me.
But I'm wondering if I'm listening and I'm
Mhm.
listening in all English, would the title show up for just me? Anyways,
I
peut-être,
think I've seen it, but I don't know if it would be in each language.
yeah.
That's
I'm just looking at the settings just to see if I can find something. If
okay.
not, not a big deal. Someone was just asking.
No problem.
Either way, you've got lots of time. I can set you up now,
Yes. Yes,
but you
just
don't
so
have
that.
to start until we're ready. So you can reach me in the
Perfect.
chat.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I was hoping to get on a little earlier to see how I put backgrounds on.
Ah, yes. So you
But I
are
mean,
going,
you can look at my cards at the back and my awards. So,
your background is just fine. I do believe though, if you go down to your bottom corner and you see where your camera is, you click that little arrow, you can blur your background, you can choose a virtual background or a filter. You can play with that right now if you want. We're just in a pre-practice session to make sure I can hear everybody.
okay. I don't see the little camera though. I see a video icon. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And then the little arrow beside it. So you should have your
Gotcha.
options there. And the
Thank you very much.
options, the video filters for makeup are actually pretty good.
Oh, what I can look better? No one told me that.
Coming from a very pale-faced person, I'm like, oh, okay, got a little color.
Because UMB has a background that I was going to put on, but I guess choose my virtual background. That's not helpful.
Let's see if I can set it for you, but I do not have that
Oh, there
power.
it is. Oh, there I am. There's
Oh,
you
that's
in.
cute. You're flying above the campus.
Oh, is that too high? Because I have my thing on a pedestal. So,
That's perfect. You can stay there.
okay.
I find myself, I'm like, this is a good one, but then sometimes I slouch and I'm down here. Nobody sees me anyways, because once this turns on, I disappear into the chat and work my magic.
So if people are asking me questions I have to read, I'll have to do this. If I can just look at people, I'm all good. So,
Perfect. Yes, I was just playing around with the settings because we're trying to figure out how you can have captions on the bottom when people are speaking. But
okay.
I don't think it works where we're switching between languages. Like it doesn't recognize, but I
There,
think each user can set it. But anyways, I'm playing around with that. And
in
I do
our
see,
province, because we're a bilingual province, we actually have an icon right on the bottom of the screen that's preset, and you choose
okay.
the language. So,
Well, we do have interpretation. We just haven't figured out the captions. Are you talking about for captions or
oh,
like subtitles or
oh, maybe that's the like. Well, we have simultaneous
yeah,
interpretation because, hi,
and we do
Krithka.
too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So just people can, there's a little icon when I work with the province that people, when they go into French or English, whichever they're not comfortable with, they can just click on that icon.
Yes. No, we do have the interpretation that's available to you folks as panelists as well.
So are you
Yeah.
here, Terry, in Fredericton, or are you?
I'm in Petitcodiac,
Okay.
so I'm the Zoom support. It's a job I didn't realize was a job until the pandemic, and people started asking for it, and I'm a virtual assistant. I'm like, I'm sure I could figure that out, and now I have lots of fun with it. So
My good friend is from, she calls it Petty
yes,
Kodiak.
yeah. Everybody calls it petty, if someone's from here and they say, "Oh yeah, I'm from Petty," I'm like, "You are from Petty."
And her mother is a scream. I think I like don't tell her, but I think I almost enjoy hanging around with her mother more. Hey,
Funny.
Florence, how are you?
Yeah, I'm muted. I
Sorry,
love
I'm
that
the
blue.
oh, thank you. I'm the specialist of stalking with my mic off, but
Muted. Yeah.
I'm very happy to see you. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. How are you? How are you
I'm
doing?
good.
Good. Kudos to everyone. This seems to have gone off seamless. And Krithika did a great job on her speaking notes. I know I haven't sent mine to you yet because I literally just finished 5 minutes before I logged on.
No problem. And thank you very much for your offer. It is very appreciated to have your note for the report to be sure that I respect your words.
And I will follow up on whether I can get the PDFs to you. I haven't received an answer yet. So if I get clearance, because it's the UMB property once I create it, it's their intellectual property. then I'll send it on to you. But I can
Okay.
talk about it because I created it. So
Okay. So I will add it when you have when you can send that to me. I will add it in the report.
excellent.
It's a beautiful day today. I hope it's the same in Fredericton.
It is stunning. It's 30, what is it, Krithka 31, I think. So I haven't had a break. I look outside though.
Right now it is on 26 degrees.
Oh, 26, is it? Okay.
It's good. It's good for spring.
True.
Bonjour.
Bonjour Juliette, ça va bien?
Ça va et vous, ça va? Bonjour,
Ça
bonjour
va
tout le
bien.
monde.
Alors, tu as une fonction interprétation, si tu veux, qui est juste en bas de ton écran. So I will repeat for all. You've got an interpretation tool just at the back of your screen. So if you want to use it, because the public dialogue will be in French and in English. So feel free to use this tool.
So the interpreter I see is on. Do we do our pronunciation of our names now, or I think I'm going to be pretty easy. So
Is everybody here?
Not yet,
Oh,
but
there's Adebayo.
hello, Lynn. Lynn, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Sorry, I was just changing my name on the screen.
And thank you for joining us. Hello, Adebayo.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, and you? How's everyone
I'm
doing
good.
today?
Very good.
Oh wow, nice to be here. Oh.
And we got Jason.
Looks like Jason is at his cottage. Or is that a background, Jason?
No, this is actually, it's not a deep fake. This actually is my cottage.
Wow. That's beautiful.
But should I go blur mode? I don't want people,
Too jealous?
Thank-
But why?
Yeah.
Next meeting's at Jason's place.
What can I say? I love this place.
are you in
Awesome.
Petit Kodiak as well, Jason?
Pardon?
Where are you? Where's the cottage? Is it in Petit Kodiak?
No, it's southwestern New Brunswick, Latang. So it's on the Latang Harbor. Or the Bay
Okay.
of Fundy. So it's just south of St. George.
Well, now I grew up swimming in the Bay of Fundy. Most people don't know that experience. So that's one to behold. So
That could actually be a barrier that newcomers face, having to overcome their fear of the frigid Bay of Fundy water temperatures. But it's a fear that I need to overcome.
well, I'm a certified lifeguard. Well, I've let my certification go, but I did certify 3 times. So I think I'm okay. So I'll help you guys. So
Our cottage is on the Bay de Chaleur, which is also very cold, but it's all shallow right in front of our place, so it actually doesn't get too cold.
right.
So we're just waiting for Marisa. She confirmed her attendance yesterday, so I'm sure she will be here in a few minutes. But if you want, so Shelly, sorry, I trained myself. Kirutika and Adebayo, if you want to confirm the pronunciation of your name, and Juliette too, if you want to confirm.
Yeah,
okay.
I know it is hard. My name is pronounced as Kirutika.
Kirutika.
Kirutika,
Oh.
yeah. Is that
okay.
hard?
Kirutika.
No,
Yeah,
and
right.
is the last name Krishnasamy?
Krishna Swami, you're right. Krishna Swami, yeah.
Swami. Okay. Krishnaswamy.
Hello,
So-
everybody. Hi.
Yeah, hi.
Right.
My name is pronounced Juliette Desnos, but you can say Juliette as you like. Desnos.
Is Nuku with you?
No, he's not. I told him he should be coming soon.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. My name is Adebayo. It's pronounced as A, then D, A, D, Bayo. Adebayo.
Adebayo.
So yes. So my last name is O Con Le. O
Oh, cool.
Con Le. Yeah.
Sorry, I see one of the interpreters have their hand up. Did you need to say anything? Wondering if they're right. Are you asking about pronunciation or anything? No. Oh, you
Well,
just lower the.
After all those names, I'm kind of sad to say I'm just Shelley Clayton. Pretty straightforward, and you can call
Just
me
Jason.
Shelley. There's a message in the chat.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
know it's just on the English channel. Okay, hang on. I'm turning on the English channel so I can hear you now.
Perfect. It's just to mention that I think the sound on Kiritika is a bit hard to hear, and as much as it's clear for people just listening, it might be harder to translate.
Okay, I will let her know.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. If
No
she could use
problem.
like headphones or something, because the sound is really from afar.
All right. Kiritika, do you have headphones by any chance? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, but my headphones are not connected. I connected, but I couldn't hear your voice. So I just disconnected. Can I quit and come back and join again?
Yeah, try that. Just the interpreters are saying it's difficult with the echo. Like we hear you fine, but when you're trying to interpret a second
Oh,
language, clarity
fine. Thank
matters.
you.
All right, yeah, we'll let you try that. That's a note for everybody else too. Just when you're speaking in whichever language you choose to speak in, clear at a regular pace. I know some of us like to speed up, but we just get a better interpretation experience when people slow down a little bit, which would be really great. I'll also let you know too, where we're getting close to 1:30. How it works is at I'd say 1:29, I'll start the webinar and people will start coming in. Don't worry about starting right away. And then I will hit live on Facebook. And once you see in the top right corner, Jason, I think it's you that's hosting, eh? Or is it Adebayo?
I'm not certain.
Whichever one of you is starting, once you see, there'll be like a big red live in the top left corner. Once you see that, that's your cue to start. So I'll start the webinar. You'll start seeing people come in. You can chat amongst yourself. And then I hit live on Facebook, but it takes a second. There's a bit of a delay, but once the live shows up in the top left corner, you're good to start.
I think it's Jason who speak in first.
Oh, okay.
And
Can you hear that? Can you hear that in the background?
No, I'm not hearing
No,
anything.
good. Okay, there's workers outside are doing cleanup, yard cleanup, so they have a chainsaw, so I just don't want that to be
I
distracting.
have a chainsaw. Don't hear chainsaw.
Yeah. I know my limits. Operating a chainsaw is yeah.
I don't know, when we were building my mom's place, we were pushing every limit and then we realized the pitch of the roof was too steep. I'm like, we're not roofers. No, it's just worth dying over, so we outsourced that. You gotta know your limits.
Et Juliette, je sais que tu es parfaitement bilingue, mais sens-toi à l'aise de parler en français ou en anglais. C'est vraiment comme tu le souhaites. Les questions, je crois qu'il y en a une qui te sera posée en anglais, mais tu peux tout à fait répondre en français si tu le veux.
Bah, ce qui est plus pratique, je pense que si on me pose des questions en anglais, je répondrai en anglais et en français en français. Non?
C'est comme tu préfères,
Ok.
vraiment, sens-toi à l'aise. L'important, c'est que l'information passe et que de toute façon, nous avons un
Ouais.
traducteur qui sera là pour traduire pour l'autre langue. Donc vraiment, sens-toi vraiment à l'aise. Et puis d'un
Mais
côté,
pour
c'est bien aussi
rebondir, ouais.
que tu parles en français, parce que ça permet d'équilibrer un petit peu.
Pour rebondir sur ce que Florence vient de dire, Juliette, on veut vraiment que les gens se sentent à l'aise. Et n'hésitez surtout pas à vous exprimer en français. De toute manière, en fait, les gens peuvent se prévaloir en fait du service d'interprétation.
D'accord. Donc plutôt français alors?
All right.
Si tu es
Oh.
plus à l'aise en français.
Bah oui, c'est ma langue maternelle, mais.
Oh, it just
Moi,
lost her again.
je vais vous laisser. J'écouterai dans les coulisses. Je vous souhaite un très bon dialogue. I wish you the best dialogue ever.
Merci
Ok.
Florence.
Merci Florence.
Merci beaucoup, Florence. À très bientôt.
Oh, someone mentioned it's a little difficult to hear Jason. I think it's because the earbuds don't have a good microphone, but just, I guess, speak clear. Yes,
I'll
Kiruthika?
actually switch. I can switch to these.
Yeah, I tried, but I couldn't get connected.
Okay, so we'll have to do the best with what we've got. But as best you can, speak clear, and that should help the interpreters. I'm going to disappear and start the webinar. People are going to come in. You guys can keep testing, but I just want to get us started on time. I'm going to disappear, but you can all find me in the chat.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much, Terry. I just put my headphones on. Does this sound better?
Yes.
Okay.
So Jason, just while we're waiting to go in, so you're the person who tells us the questions? Or is that a debate? A debate-o? Did I say it right?
Yeah, at the bio. Yeah.
Um,
So, Jason, do you have the questions?
I do.
Oh, okay.
Yes, in response to your question, the webinar is now streaming live on Facebook, so we'll be starting momentarily. In terms of the Q&A at the end of the public dialogue this afternoon, my understanding is that Tolin, you'll manage and read the questions. Is that correct? And I'll do the timekeeping at the end of the session.
Yes, I think so. That's
Yeah.
right, Jason.
Mhm.
Anything else you want us to know before we go?
I don't think so. Obviously, we're co-chairing it, both myself and Tolin, so we're going to be going back and forth between one another, and we also will be alternating between English and French throughout the public dialogue. And anytime you're called upon to intervene, obviously we'll make it clear. So each of you will be invited to speak at specific times during the public dialogue. So I think we have the green light, 42 people in attendance and counting. So let's get the ball rolling, everyone. Alors, bonjour tout le monde.
Bonjour.
Good morning,
Good
everyone.
morning.
Great. Bon après-midi.
My name is Jason Alcorn, and I'm the board chair of Cohesia. I joined the board of what was previously Dialogue NB in June of 2020, and I've been the chairperson of Dialogue and Cohesia, because we've transitioned this past year to Cohesia. So I've been chair of the organization for just under a year. I would like to welcome you all to this public dialogue, where we will discuss the barriers that newcomers face in the financial and consumer markets and what is being done to address those barriers specifically. This public dialogue is being organized in collaboration with the Financial and Consumer Services Commission of New Brunswick, my former employer, where I had the privilege of working for 15 years. And it is my great pleasure to host this dialogue with somebody I'm very familiar with, Tolin Nguyen, Executive Director of Securities at the FCNB, with whom I worked for several years. Good afternoon, Tolin.
Hi, Jason. Great to see you. Good afternoon, everyone. So just like Jason mentioned, I'm extremely happy to be here as well, and it's nice to get a chance to work with you again, Jason. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we begin. So if you haven't already seen on the chat, there is simultaneous translation available today in English and French. So to take advantage of this service, you can simply activate the interpretation function at the bottom of the screen. We'd also encourage active participation by anyone who is attending via Zoom today. So feel free to put your questions in the chat function, and we'll be sure to check that periodically and answer those questions.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Merci Tolin pour ces précisions. Je me joins à vous aujourd'hui depuis le 15, dans le sud-ouest du Nouveau-Brunswick. Je tiens à entamer ce dialogue public en reconnaissant que je me trouve aujourd'hui sur le territoire ancestral et non cédé du peuple Pescoto-Mukati, le Passamaquoddy. Ce territoire est couvert par les traités de paix et d'amitié, signés à l'origine en 1725 par les Wolastoqey, Malécites, les Mi'kmaq et les Pescoto-Mukti avec la couronne britannique. Il convient de rappeler que ces traités n'avaient pas pour objet le transfert de terres et de ressources, mais plutôt la reconnaissance des titres des Wolastoqey, des Mi'kmaq et des Pescoto-Mukti, ainsi que l'établissement des règles régissant les relations à long terme entre les nations. Je suis reconnaissant que nous puissions tous nous rencontrer virtuellement ici aujourd'hui. Le génie, en fait, des logiciels nous permet justement de nous rencontrer virtuellement, et j'invite chacun d'entre vous à indiquer dans l'espace clavardage de quel territoire ancestral et non cédé vous vous joignez à nous aujourd'hui. Si vous avez le moindre doute, vous retrouverez une ressource pour vous aider dans l'espace clavardage. Je laisse maintenant la parole à Tolin, qui va vous expliquer les objectifs de nos dialogues. Tolin?
Thanks, Jason. So the purpose of today's dialogue is really to gain a better understanding of a topic and not necessarily to reach a resolution. If at the end of the dialogue you feel that you've learned something, we'll have accomplished our goal. So please also know that COHESIA publishes reports on each of its dialogues. These are shared with stakeholders and can be found on COHESIA's website.
Et une règle de base avant de commencer aujourd'hui, nous encourageons chacun d'entre vous à faire preuve de respect et de courtoisie dans vos commentaires. Sachez que les éléments suivants ne seront pas tolérés et seront systématiquement supprimés dans le cadre du dialogue public d'aujourd'hui. Les propos diffamatoires, abusifs et obscènes, les propos discriminatoires basés sur le sexe, la religion, la nationalité, voire l'orientation sexuelle, et les propos incitant à la haine ou à la violence. Dans cet esprit, entrant dans le vif du sujet, je vous laisse maintenant la parole, Pauline.
So this dialogue aims to shed light on factors that limit newcomers' access to financial and consumer markets, especially during the first few months after their arrival. And it will also explore ways of encouraging the active participation of newcomers. We're very pleased today to welcome our numerous speakers, and I will present them to you. First, we have, and maybe you can, Juliette Desnos and her husband, Nuku Akolatse. So
Hello.
Juliette and Nuku are entrepreneurs. They arrived in New Brunswick just this past December from France with their 2 children. We also have Adebayo Ogule, Executive Vice President of the New Brunswick Multicultural Council. And he is also the president, the first one, as I understand it, of the Nigerian Canadian Association of New Brunswick. Welcome, Adebayo.
Thank you so much. Nice to be here today.
Next, we have Kirutika Krishnaswamy, who is an international student from India. She is currently a research student at the Finance and Treasury Board of the Government of New Brunswick. So welcome, Kirutika.
Thank you.
Next, we have Shelley Clayton, who is the Director of Financial Aid and Student Services at UNB. Shelley is also a member of the Financial Education Network of New Brunswick. Welcome, Shelley.
Thank you. And thank you very much for hosting this very important dialogue.
And last but not least, Marisa Rojas, who is a settlement worker with the Multicultural Association of Fredericton. So welcome, Marisa. Do I see?
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Very good. So thank you all so much for taking part in this great dialogue today. We're extremely excited about being together for the next 2 hours until 3:30. As this is a topic with multiple layers, I'll be keeping time to ensure that everyone is given the opportunity to express their thoughts, but I think we will allow some flexibility there if the dialogue is so good that we want to continue on with it. So over to you, Jason.
Thank you very much, Tolin. Obviously, we have a very busy agenda for this public dialogue this afternoon. The first part, which is really an overview, deals specifically with immigration to New Brunswick and the barriers that are encountered. Cette prochaine partie portera sur un état des lieux relativement à l'immigration au Nouveau-Brunswick et les obstacles rencontrés. À présent, je vous propose que nous entrions dans le vif du sujet en écoutant le témoignage de 2 nouveaux arrivants pour mieux comprendre les défis et les obstacles d'ordre financier auxquels les nouveaux arrivants font face à leur arrivée sur le sol néo-brunswickois. Juliette Nuku, vous avez quitté la région parisienne en France pour vous installer dans la région du Grand Moncton il y a plus de 5 mois. Ce qui nous intéresse cet après-midi, comment avez-vous financièrement préparé les premiers mois de votre arrivée? Quelles étaient vos priorités? Ensuite, une fois bien installé au Nouveau-Brunswick, en Acadie, qu'est-ce qui vous a le plus surpris? Quels défis avez-vous rencontrés? Et avez-vous en fait dû revoir vos priorités? Donc, beaucoup de questions, mais on s'intéresse énormément en fait à votre perspective comme nouveaux arrivants au Nouveau-Brunswick.
Je commence?
Oui.
Oui.
Alors, nous, on a dû préparer notre voyage longtemps à l'avance. On a dû faire des économies. Nous sommes allés en France à un forum Canada et nous avons rempli des papiers qui nous ont permis d'avoir accès à la résidence permanente directement. Ça a pris quelques années. Et pendant ces quelques années, nous avons préparé financièrement notre voyage en faisant des économies. Et nous avons eu la chance de garder une partie, pour moi, une petite partie, et pour nous, une grande partie de notre travail à distance au début de notre séjour. Donc ça,
Et donc, au fond, pour la préparation, c'est un peu ce qu'on a fait, puisqu'on a eu la chance de faire la visite exploratoire, donc à peu près 3-4 ans avant notre arrivée, parce qu'il y a eu le Covid entre-temps, donc qui a fait qu'on a eu un temps où, voilà, on a visité le Néo-Brunswick en 2018, donc ce qui nous a laissé le temps de bien préparer. Et aussi, sur la partie financière, dans ce que disait Juliette, c'est qu'on a réussi, on a eu la chance de pouvoir discuter avec nos employeurs en France pour garder le travail quelques mois encore à distance après notre arrivée. Voilà, donc ce qui nous a permis de sécuriser un peu financièrement notre arrivée ici au Nouveau-Brunswick.
Juliette,
Donc,
oui, pardon, vous aviez mentionné qu'il y avait un forum. S'agissait-il d'un forum de recrutement organisé par le gouvernement canadien ou le gouvernement du Nouveau-Brunswick?
oui, c'est ça, tout à fait.
Oui, d'accord.
En fait, c'était plus un forum sur le Canada en général. Et après, effectivement, il y avait comme je sais pas si on peut, c'est pas un recrutement par rapport à l'emploi, mais pour les visas.
Pour les visas, tout à fait, exactement.
OK. Vous savez, je connais bien. Allez-y, du coup, on vous entend.
Non, j'allais continuer sur les autres questions. Donc, ça,
Oui.
c'était la première partie sur la préparation. Mais voilà, si vous voulez rajouter quelque chose. OK. Donc, voilà. Donc, au fond, on a préparé un peu cette partie les premiers mois. Donc, et donc, quand on est arrivé, ensuite, on n'a pas eu spécialement de défis. C'était les petites complications qu'on a pu avoir, c'est le fait qu'on pensait qu'on aurait pu transférer le peu d'économie qu'on avait facilement entre la France et le Canada. Donc, on a réussi à ouvrir un compte rapidement. Donc, compte bancaire, ça s'est fait facilement, notamment grâce On a 2-3 banques, je ne sais pas si on peut citer les noms, mais qui facilitent l'accès au compte des nouveaux arrivants. Donc, ils nous ont ouvert un compte assez rapidement et facilement. Mais on a eu des complications à transférer l'argent de la France ici. Et puis, ce qu'on a eu à faire, c'était donc on avait concernant le logement, donc trouver un nouveau logement, on avait une crainte sur les conditions d'accès au logement avant d'arriver ici au Nouveau-Brunswick, et on était agréablement surpris parce que l'accès au nouveau logement se fait assez facilement parce que les bailleurs, que ce soit des particuliers ou des professionnels, ont un accueil assez facile, et le dossier n'est pas aussi compliqué que ce qu'on peut rencontrer en France.
En France,
donc,
quoi.
voilà, donc je ne sais pas si tu veux compléter, Juliette, mais voilà, pour vous donner une petite idée, en France, pour avoir un logement, il faut avoir un contrat permanent de plus de 3 mois, gagner 3 fois le loyer, il faut avoir une caution, il faut avoir une lettre de son employeur disant qu'on n'est pas en rupture. Il y a tellement de conditions pour accéder au logement. Et on a été surpris parce que les gens nous ont fait confiance assez facilement, assez simplement à notre arrivée pour avoir accès au logement. Donc, c'est le premier élément. Et le deuxième, on est arrivé en hiver. Donc, arrivant en hiver, il fallait avoir une voiture parce qu'on n'habitait pas forcément près du centre. Donc, pour se déplacer, donc le bus fonctionne, mais les horaires ne sont pas aussi adaptés en fonction des besoins. Et donc, pour trouver une voiture, c'était la location. Ça, c'était assez coûteux. Et là où le défi qu'on avait eu, c'était on pensait qu'on pouvait faire ce qu'on appelle des leasing longue durée facilement. Mais ce n'est pas si facile que ça à la fin parce qu'il fallait avoir un employeur ou avoir d'abord payé des impôts au Canada pour avoir accès au leasing. Voilà, des petites choses comme ça Donc, pour le logement, c'était assez facile, mais pour la voiture, c'était moins évident.
Ce qu'on s'attendait exactement à l'inverse, en fait, puisque on pensait que louer une voiture, ça allait être simple. Enfin, c'est simple à la semaine, mais c'est extrêmement cher. Et donc, pour le logement, ça s'est fait très rapidement. Donc, voilà, on a eu un problème pour la voiture par rapport aux banques. Ça, oui. Donc, on a été obligé d'acheter tout de suite une voiture. Donc, c'est la chose à laquelle on ne s'attendait pas du tout.
Là, je présume, Juliette et Nuku, vous n'aviez vraiment pas prévu que vous seriez obligé d'acheter un véhicule, en fait, argent comptant.
Exactement, c'est ça.
C'est un défi à relever inattendu, d'ailleurs.
Oui, c'est ça, tout à fait.
On pensait pouvoir louer sur l'année, mais ce qu'on peut faire en France, et apparemment ici, c'est plus compliqué. Et on pensait avoir du mal à trouver un logement, et ça, c'est fait très facilement. Donc, on a peut-être eu de la chance aussi, mais en tout cas, les dossiers sont beaucoup plus simples ici.
Un des éléments des questions, parce que je vous ai posé plusieurs questions, c'était est-ce que vous avez dû revoir vos priorités lorsque vous êtes arrivé dans les premiers mois à Moncton?
Par rapport à toujours l'aspect financier?
Sur l'ensemble, parce qu'on présume, en fait, évidemment, vous étiez bien organisé, vous aviez déjà prévu des années à l'avance comment vous alliez, en fait, vous installer. Mais une fois que vous êtes arrivé sur place, est-ce qu'il y a eu des...
Oui,
évidemment,
oui.
l'achat de la voiture qui est un imprévisible, mais est-ce qu'il y a eu d'autres
Et
moments?
l'école aussi,
Ouais,
c'est ça que tu voulais dire?
Oui.
Oui, moi, ce que je voulais dire, c'était, oui, effectivement, les priorités, c'est que, effectivement, quand on avait visité lors de notre voyage exploratoire Moncton, Fredericton et Saint John. Donc, on envisageait notamment de s'installer à soit Moncton ou Fredericton parce qu'on avait plus une sensibilité par rapport à ces deux villes. Et ben, finalement, on a atterri avec l'avion à Moncton et on a commencé à chercher des logements depuis Paris. Et les principaux qu'on a pu trouver étaient ici. Et donc, on imaginait vivre à Moncton ou Dieppe. Mais finalement, le logement qui s'est libéré facilement pour nous était à Riverview. Et donc, voilà. Donc, on a changé par rapport à ce qu'on imaginait de où est-ce qu'on allait s'installer. Donc, pour parler de priorité, on trouvait Fredericton mignon, on trouvait Moncton assez dynamique. Voilà, en fait, on avait des idées, mais finalement, il fallait s'adapter en fonction des logements qui étaient disponibles, qui correspondaient à ce qu'on attendait. Et puis aussi, au début, on voulait vivre en appartement parce qu'on avait peur de... Bon, après, c'est peut-être
De
pas
la
fini,
neige.
mais de la neige. Donc, déneiger, est-ce qu'on va pouvoir gérer une maison en plein hiver? Et finalement, les appartements, il y avait très peu de trois appartements disponibles pour notre famille. Donc, finalement, on a trouvé une maison, mais qui répondait à peu près à... Voilà. Donc, on a fait avec ce qui était disponible en plein hiver. Voilà. Donc, on s'est ajusté comme ça.
Effectivement, si vous n'avez pas en fait une déblayeuse
Oui.
pour la neige, ça rend la tâche beaucoup plus difficile. Merci beaucoup en fait de nous avoir fait part de votre témoignage comme nouveaux arrivants au Canada. Vous avez évoqué la difficulté de trouver un logement en France. J'ai déjà vécu en France pendant plusieurs années. Je peux confirmer qu'effectivement, c'est un tout autre processus pour obtenir un appartement, surtout en région parisienne. C'est très difficile. Donc, en tout cas, on est très heureux que vous avez fait le bon choix, le Nouveau-Brunswick, et que vous êtes bien installé. Et merci beaucoup d'avoir fait part de votre témoignage cet après-midi. Merci beaucoup. Pauline?
Merci à vous.
Merci beaucoup.
Oui, merci bien, Juliette et Nuku. So considering your testimonies, we realize that even despite being prepared, newcomers can face unforeseen events and misunderstandings, so which can put them in a position of disconnect and slow the integration into the financial and consumer markets. Industry professionals, therefore, can play an important role in guiding newcomers through the first few months of their settlement. The stakes are high as more and more immigrants are arriving in New Brunswick. According to Stats Canada, New Brunswick recorded a record number of immigrants in 2021 and 2022. And that is close to 6,600 people. So that's the first time it's been that high in the province since 1932. You can find more info by following the link that is being shared in the chat. And all these people need to be understood and well-oriented to become well-informed and active participants of New Brunswick as well as Canada. To go further, I'd like to propose that we paint a picture of immigration in New Brunswick with Adebayo. Adebayo, you are the Executive Vice President of the New Brunswick Multicultural Council and President of the Nigerian Canadian Association of New Brunswick. Can you please provide a socio-demographic portrait of immigration in our province so our audience today has a better understanding of this demographic and their economic impact?
Yeah, thank you very much, Philly, and to our viewers, thank you for joining today. So just like you, I was just introduced. I'm the president of the Nigerian Canadian Association of New Brunswick and the executive vice president for the Multicultural Council. So a bit of background on immigration. So basically, away from what people think immigration is. Today, when we talk about immigration, the first thing that comes to mind is, the Black people or set of colored people. So immigration could be anyone, could be for, different nationality. Let's take a look at, the definition of immigration in terms of it says immigrants, it's classified as people who move from a different place to another, basically to settle for a long time or for economic reasons. So coming down to New Brunswick as it concerns us, I would like to speak about, a few things which I have listed here. So the first one is about the demographics of newcomers or immigrants. When we look at this demographic, in the year 2021, we'll have about 6,581 immigrants that arrived New Brunswick as given by the statistics that you've just seen, up here. And it's a far record of what has happened before in New Brunswick. And these are some of the things that the Multicultural Council and even other organizations like the Nigerian Canadian Associations are doing to attract migrants into New Brunswick so that we can actually help with the aging population, increase GDP of New Brunswick and so on and so forth. So when we look at categories of immigration, we have the temporary workers, we have the permanent resident workers, and we have those that qualified under the refugee and the asylum seekers. So if we take a look at the social economic impact of immigration in New Brunswick, then we'll be looking at the effect of how it affects the economy of New Brunswick. And I dare to say today that, it's been on the positive side because we're looking at, increased economic growth for New Brunswick, obviously because of the numbers. And, we'll be looking at, we're talking about productivity has improved. And these workers, when they come in, they tend to replace the aging population, and they improve on the entrepreneurship spirit, which is already on ground. And you cannot overstate the fact that immigration brings about with increased innovation, ideas on how things are done differently because we're looking at a multi-diverse group of people. So, and that's another thing. And, it comes with skill improvement. It comes with knowledge about, of the host country. Also, we'll talk about diversity. And that's what Canada is known for, our rich, diverse culture in Canada. So, and this helps us to, expose different kind of cultures in Canada and, as pertain to New Brunswick. And let me quickly say here that immigration has actually helped in reducing poverty because when this newcomer when they come in, some of the regulations before, for instance, the economically skilled people, when you look at a family of 4, as provided by the government, before you are allowed to come in, you are supposed to have about 26,000 Canadian dollars in terms of funds that you have to bring into the economy. So if out of the 6,000 people that came in 2021, and we just want to take a quick survey of that 6,000 people, if we determine to say 3,000 are skilled immigrants, if we multiply 3,000 by the 25,000 or 26,000 Canadian dollars, that's a huge sum of amount that comes into the economy. And that has actually helped increase at least the economic growth of the country. Then not only that, when you go on the website of IRCC, the Canadian government, in year 2021, international students recorded a whopping sum of $21 billion as what they brought into the economy. We have schools like New Brunswick, University of New Brunswick. We have colleges, MBCC. We have private universities, University of Moncton, and so on and so forth. These international students are also immigrants, and they consume a lot. And when you break it down to the amount they bring into the economy of New Brunswick, it's a huge whopping sum of money. So to summarize it all, immigration, or let's say immigration newcomers, it has actually helped New Brunswick to grow. It has helped us in terms of, replacing aging workforce. It has actually increased our productivity. We have much more skilled force in New Brunswick, and which has actually led to even the booming sector of, the housing sector, and so on and so forth. But on the downside to it, some of the challenges that the Brunswick immigrants they face, or they are doubting when they come in, just like Uncle mentioned, you have housing challenge, you have knowledge kind of difference. I don't want to say knowledge gap, because they are well knowledgeable from from where they're coming from, but that gap or that difference is there, and you have a little bit of exposure in terms of policies that the government is supposed to put in place, which are not yet in place. So these are some of the things that affect them on the downside. But in overall picture, I can say that immigration has actually helped the economy of New Brunswick, and it can only get better.
Thank you for that, Adebayo. I think you raised some interesting points there, and perhaps not everyone is aware that immigrants, so whether they're students and or newcomers, that there is a financial resource requirement that maybe not everyone is aware of. So that is an interesting point. Maybe I'll ask you an additional question. So do you see in your role and within your organization, whether newcomers are happy with New Brunswick, or is it, a temporary step to maybe go elsewhere within Canada, or is there anything that we can do in our collective efforts to try and retain these newcomers?
Well, that's a very good question. I can say from my own interactions with newcomers, and one of the things that NBMC, which is the Multicultural Council, is doing is to better the lives of newcomers, to act as a liaison, to act as a bridge between the government, the host community, and the newcomers, to ensure that everyone is heard, to ensure everyone's opinion counts, and to ensure that they better the lives of immigrants when they come in here, And you could see some of those programs that NBMC is doing online. When you go to nbmc.com on NBMC's website, there are good programs that NBMC has put in place to attract and to keep these newcomers, because we identify that when they come, there's always this language barrier, and you have like cultural shock, cultural differences. So these are some of the things that NBMC are doing on one hand. But to answer your question, I can say that newcomers, when they come into New Brunswick, they are happy, and they are happy to stay to add to the growing economy of New Brunswick. However, let's not shy away from the fact that there are still some things that needs to be done. It's a revolving, it's a growing concern. There's still some things that need to be done, and organizations like the ethnocultural organizations, the multicultural organizations, they are equally trying. Say, for example, when I came in the year 2018, we have less than, say, 2,000 Nigerians in New Brunswick. Well, as of today, we have about 4,000 Nigerians in New Brunswick. That's a significant amount of growth that we've experienced. Now, away from what it used to be before, when newcomers come, after a short period of stay, they tend to leave due to reasons like lack of jobs, opportunities, and what you see as perceived form of tolerance from the host community. But all those is changing now, because association like the Nigerian Canadian Association of New Brunswick, we're out there to help newcomers when they come in. We'll welcome them. We'll help them, right from simple services like arranging their CVs, helping them to network, picking them up from airports, navigating them around, helping them to find their ways around the cities, and to, just name it. These are some of the things we do for them when they come in. And that has, really helped them to stay, because they see people that look like them. It tells them that we are welcoming and we want them to stay. And with the impact of what the previous people that came here before them has done, so there's much more job opportunities now. And so as a result of that, you see more newcomers, they stay in the province. And you can attest to the fact that even the shortage in housing and all that, you can see it's as a result of the increased population of newcomers staying in the province. And, though we can't take away the fact that COVID led to a whole lot of like logistic supplies and all that, but in general, away from what it used to be when newcomers come and they just leave. But right now, they come and stay.
Very good, thank you.
Merci Adebayo pour ce portrait exhaustif de l'immigration au Nouveau-Brunswick. Évidemment, vous nous avez fourni beaucoup de renseignements et évidemment des défis à relever, mais sur l'ensemble, je crois que c'est positif. C'est positif pour notre économie, c'est positif pour l'ensemble du Nouveau-Brunswick. Et à travers vos explications, l'on comprend l'importance de rendre intelligible l'accès au marché financier et de consommation aux familles des nouveaux arrivants. Il en va de notre capacité à les retenir pour qu'ils se sentent rapidement chez eux et développent un sentiment d'appartenance. Au-delà de cela, à l'heure où la population du Nouveau-Brunswick vieillit, il en va aussi de notre capacité à dynamiser les investissements, la consommation et plus largement notre croissance économique. Tout à l'heure, Juliette et Nuku nous ont expliqué leur expérience et les défis qu'ils ont rencontrés en tant que famille, de travailleurs qualifiés et d'entrepreneurs. Je propose que nous nous intéressions maintenant à une autre catégorie d'immigration choisie, soit les étudiants internationaux. En décembre 2022, selon Immigration, Réfugiés et Citoyenneté Canada, le ministère fédéral, il y avait un total de 807 750 000 détenteurs de permis d'études au Canada, dont 11 410 au Nouveau-Brunswick. Kirutika Krish Nasami, vous êtes originaire d'Inde et vous poursuivez actuellement votre MBA à l'Université du Nouveau-Brunswick, à Fredericton. Vous êtes actuellement étudiante en recherche au Conseil des finances et du Trésor du gouvernement du Nouveau-Brunswick. Vous contribuez aussi en tant qu'étudiante-chercheur au sein du Bureau d'aide financière de l'Université du Nouveau-Brunswick à Fredericton. On aimerait vous entendre sur la question suivante. Quels défis avez-vous rencontrés en tant qu'étudiante à votre arrivée au Nouveau-Brunswick, puis tout au long de votre parcours d'études? Merci.
Yeah, that was a good question. I'm Kritika Krishnaswamy and my pronouns are she or her. I arrived on August 2022 from India to pursue my MBA in UNB Fredericton along with my family. Moving to a new country is an exciting but daunting experience filled with uncertainties and obstacles. Upon my arrival in August 2022, everything felt new and I have to start from scratch in building my social connections. As a newcomer, I had limited access to information, which made me navigating the unfamiliar circumstances even more challenging. But I was determined to pursue my dreams, knowing that it would be an uphill battle. One of the major challenges I encountered was managing my finances, budgeting, and finding a suitable part-time employment. Daycare for a child becoming a source of stress. As an international student, I have to balance my academic responsibilities with the need to support myself and my family financially. This was not an easy task, and I have to constantly seek opportunities and resources to alleviate the financial burden. Additionally, I have to focus more on academic, adjusting to new expectations, coursework, and assessment methods required extra effort. The academic demands were higher, and I have to adapt quickly to meet those expectations. The first 15 days were spent on setting the basic needs like bedding, kitchen tools, furniture. But later on, I utilized the university resources to understand the benefits offered to the international students. To overcome these challenges, I actively sought support from university. I engaged with the International Student Advisors Office, Graduate Student Association, Financial Aid Office, and I applied for graduate bursaries and other programs that could alleviate my financial burden. Attending career fairs and utilizing the resources provided by the Career Development and Employment Center at UNB also helped me to explore the employment opportunities. Thankfully, I got my work-study program, which reduced my financial burden. I'm currently a part-time student researcher in the Financial Aid Office. This is my continuation of my second term with the office. I'm assisting the director in completing the research on strategic enrollment management with respect to domestic and international students at all levels of the study. I would like to thank Shelley for believing in me. After 4 months, I began expanding my social network beyond the university. I enrolled in the programs like Connected Program, Economic Empowerment for Immigrant Women, organized by Ignite Fredericton, and also several programs organized by the Multicultural Association. These programs allowed me to connect with the local business community and develop leadership and social skills and broaden my social connections. As an internship, I'm also working for a project called Idea MD with a lovely team on equity deserving groups. Thank you, Future GNB and NB IRDT for this opportunity. Throughout my studies, I found myself juggling multiple responsibilities, balancing the academic demands, part-time work, and social connections. Required careful planning and time management. However, I realized that I was not alone in facing these challenges. Many other international students were in similar situations with their own priorities and struggles. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kirutika. Obviously, you've overcame the challenges with the transition and the move from India to Fredericton, New Brunswick. And it's very interesting to hear your perspective. And it sounds like you're thriving and that you've actually had an opportunity to advance your studies, but also to be able to contribute, through work and whatnot. Is there something, if we had international students who were listening in today who are considering, making the leap and coming over to study in New Brunswick, if there's a single thing that you would recommend to an international student that's considering New Brunswick as a destination for their university studies, what would you recommend to them? So it's a big question, large question, but I'd be curious to hear what you have to say on that topic.
There are many, as I mentioned, there are many helps you can get from like Multicultural Association, Ignite, Fredericton, or from the university, or from certain communities if you are dependent to a certain community. The only thing is you have to grab every opportunity and you have to keep searching for constantly seek your advice and support, have your mentor with you, ask suggestions, and develop your social network. It is the first and foremost thing I would say. So by developing your network and keep asking more suggestions and ideas from the experienced people or the people who already traveled this pathway would really help us. And there are many communities which are ready to help. We are not aware of those things. So we have to make ourselves self-aware of all those community and the different multicultural or the Ignite Fredericton or the services provided within the university. You have to grab that. So it is every student's responsibility to make themselves aware of it.
Thank you. I think we have a question actually, Juliette, vous avez une question?
Oui, plutôt une remarque.
Oui.
Je vais essayer de... Pour rebondir sur ce qu'elle disait, effectivement, nous aussi, ce qui nous a le plus aidé, c'est le réseau des Français à Moncton de Facebook, finalement. Parce que c'était vraiment une mise en relation avec des gens qui avaient vécu la même chose que nous, mais récemment. Et donc, ce réseau était très réactif, ce réseau Facebook. Et c'est là où j'ai trouvé les ressources les plus intéressantes.
D'accord. Et merci beaucoup, Juliette, pour avoir partagé, en fait, votre témoignage relativement à l'importance des réseaux sociaux. J'ai l'impression qu'au fur et à mesure que le Nouveau-Brunswick évolue et que le nombre de nouveaux arrivants augmente et que les nouveaux arrivants décident de s'établir de manière permanente au Nouveau-Brunswick et non pas d'aller s'installer en Ontario ou ailleurs, on va retrouver en fait parmi la diaspora de plusieurs différentes nationalités, justement des communautés qui vont en fait se développer pour justement être en mesure de pouvoir épauler, voire appuyer les nouveaux arrivants. Donc, votre expérience avec l'utilisation du site Facebook pour les Français est très intéressante. Merci.
So thank you so much, Kirutika, for sharing your experience. What you're going through, I'm sure many other students are going through as well. So I think that's a great segue for our next speaker. So for an overview of the issues facing international students, we welcome Shelley Clayton. So Shelley, you're the Director of Financial Aid and Student Services at UNB, as well as a member of the New Brunswick Financial Education Network. What are some of the main barriers that you see students facing when it comes to navigating the financial markets and financial consumer markets, and can you elaborate on their impact on students?
Absolutely. Thank you first for the opportunity to speak. And before I begin my presentation, I would just like to take a few seconds to do a traditional land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that UNB stands on surrendered and unceded traditional Wolastoqey land. The lands of Wabanaki people are recognized in a series of peace and friendship treaties to establish an ongoing relationship of peace, friendship, and mutual respect between equal nations. So thank you very much. And first of all, I just want to acknowledge that Karithika is my researcher in the financial aid office. And I wanted to give you, a little bit of insight into why, I chose Karithika, because number one, she blew us away at the interview. She was so prepared. She came, she really wanted the position. And Karithika actually speaks my research language, which was amazing because I have a very hyper mind, but Karithika was able to meet my hyperness and understand what my needs were. We actually did a research project in the winter term on specifically graduate students. And what we found, and it'll segue into kind of answering this question, is what we found is that a lot of people have myths and misperceptions on support available to students, in particular international students. So I think a lot of people think, well, perhaps international students don't need as much help because they come with this, section of money. And it's not that they're not, come to prepare. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is life happens, just like it happens to anybody. Your parent may become sick. Well, they were your sponsor and now they can no longer sponsor you. Unfortunately, someone may have passed who was providing you support and that money has gone. So what we were finding is a lot of graduate students are underestimating the costs that it takes to actually survive financially. And I'll go back to Juliet's earlier comment, is the cost of living. So a lot of international students and domestic students, this is alike, and this is what I see on an everyday basis, underestimate the cost of living, and they leave, and domestic students, they leave sometimes getting an apartment to the last minute. And I believe Julia and her husband both mentioned that getting an apartment in specific areas, and namely Fredericton, may be more challenging to get an economically priced apartment, I should say. You might get an apartment, but within your economic means may be more challenging. So I go back to Karithika's comment, is being prepared is actually the best way. Like before you leave your home country, try and reach out and secure, some accommodations. And the university is very fortunate that we have residents, and we also have community residence for married students, graduate students who need a more mature residence to stay in. So I would seek out, it doesn't have to be the University of New Brunswick, but I would seek out, if you're going abroad and you're studying internationally, see what's on campus. And here's why, and I say this to every student who comes through my office, you'll get a feel for where you want to live. So if you come and you live in residence your first term or maybe even first year, then you'll get a feel of, okay, this is a great place I want to live in. I want to raise my family here. Great. Then that gives you an opportunity to kind of take your time, get some things in place. And I will go back to various comments people made about making connections. So where I find Karithika was an enormous success is I do financial literacy presentations to graduate and undergraduate students. I do financial presentations to our International Student Advisors Office, and we also offer community volunteer income tax programs. So CVITP is the program. And we have people who come in and help international students file their tax. So why these are all important is it's like telling people, okay, you're going to another country, but you're going to not know how the mechanisms work. And so this is a great way to allow students information, both in text, and then they have someone to talk with, being myself or a community volunteer, that tells them kind of the lay of the land. And that to me is really important. You have to have a friend or a mentor or someone who knows what, you know, the expectations are. And I'll give you an example that we're dealing with internationally, that a lot of students in Karithika, and I've spoke about this, internationally may be taken advantage of, because some companies are being established that are saying, you give me $1,500 or $2,500 or whatever the amount is, and I'll help you find $10,000 in scholarships, or, you know, 2,000 in bursary, or whatever the promise is. But what students don't realize is they can do this on their own. They don't have to pay a third party to help them apply for support. And that they don't tell them, of course, because they want to be paid. And that's where a mentor comes in place, not just for the language, because I mean, I was just dealing with a student before I came on, and because English was not their first language, they misinterpreted a question on the form to the government. And there was no intent on the student's behalf. It's just language unfamiliarity. And once I explained it, everything was great. They gave them the answer. But sometimes people are making maybe assumptions, or I don't know what the right word is, that international students are more familiar with the Canadian markets than they are. And text is a great way to relay information, but living it, as I'm sure everyone will say here, is the best way to kind of get experience. And we do that actually by doing international orientation at all levels for students, to try them, giving them an overview of health and dental, and, you know, kind of opening a bank. I have a brochure that I've developed for international students about kind of how to prevent, you know, from being fraudstered, or, you know, tips and tricks and what not to do, you know, because I do find a lot of international students come with a trusting attitude towards the Canadian culture, which is great. I don't want to, you know, say don't do that, but just be careful is all I'm saying. Allow people to prove how trustworthy they are rather than give them the initial benefit of the doubt. We also have a tremendous amount of supports in place for international students. We're very fortunate. We have a whole array of offices that help with applications, help with, you know, we have our own health and dental, or our health clinic, sorry, not dental. We have a health clinic right on site at the university. And you guys all know that once you're here for 6 months, you can apply for Medicare. So there's some really great options within the province and within your educational institution, most likely, that you can take advantage of. And another great thing Karithika did when she came is immediately get involved in experiential learning. And what I call experiential learning is the work study program. So she applied to the work study program, which is how I hired her. So it's career-related employment on campus. And that not only gets you funding, which of course is great for anybody, whether you're international or domestic, but also gets you to know the mechanisms. Now, from that, Karithika, I told her about all other opportunities. So like, I try to share as much information with my students as possible. I have an advising network, and I just want to make sure that students are as advised and have information as possible, whether they want to work, whether they want to apply for scholarships, whether they want to apply for bursaries, whether they want to talk about, you know, credit scores. So I try my best to have some relevant information that's up to date, available, and dispersible to students, because I acknowledge, and I think Karithika would like to change this, but I'm extremely busy, a two-person office, because we provide service to over 10,000 students. So there are more students than there are of me. So I try and get as much information out there in group presentations. So does that answer your question, or would you like some more?
No, that's great, Shelley. I think what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of resources available for students. And I think to Karithika's point earlier is that there is a responsibility on students as well to actively going to look for that information, having the appropriate conversations with mentors or other people that they form relationships with. But there is a part for the students to play as well, but that there are resources and assistance out there. So I think that's encouraging to hear. Yeah.
And it's probably easier for international students because during the orientation cycle, they actually get introduced to all of the people who have key touch points at the university. So it's really helpful to go to the orientation because then you get to meet the director of finance, director of financial aid, like all of these people that are going to be key helpers in your lives.
Very good. I'm just going to, I see that there are a couple of questions, so maybe I'll just stop and pause and perhaps we can cover one. And Shelley, this may be to you.
Sure.
And it's someone that has worked at UNB, and she is wondering if there's a divide between university international student recruitment and provincial attempts to retain these students.
I don't know the answer, but here's what I do know. I don't know what happened in the past. Krithika has been really helpful recently in updating information, but to be truthful, this is a recent thing that I'm taking on international student advising in reference to finances. Because my workload is so immense with domestic students, I was hesitant to take on the financing and information delivery for international students, but with the pandemic, it became really relevant. Students didn't know what they could apply for. They didn't know what benefits were eligible to apply for. So I actually took more of a greater role. So all I can say is I don't have a history, but I can tell you what is happening right now, and that there's actually great connections. And Krithika helped me with research to do with a variety of different things. And we actually shared that research with our graduate studies office and our career development office. And it actually led to a full-time work study, a pilot for international students in the summer. So Krithika actually helped me show the institution that there's a need for providing full-time work to students, in particular during the summer term, and to have specific, like the employers know that these are all international students. When you go into this employer, as an employer, you have to hire an international student. So what had happened in the past, I can't speak to, but we actually are growing programs where you specifically can only hire international students. The province has done a great with retention. I work with Working NB in my director hat, and Working NB has been phenomenal in providing support to our students. So, just shout out to them that they're doing some really good work in making sure that our students stay, as I'm sure there are other provincial agencies helping.
Very good, thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Shelley. Marissa Rojas, vous accompagnez les nouveaux arrivants au sein de l'Association multiculturelle de Fredericton. J'aimerais vous demander, est-ce que vous avez noté une évolution des besoins des nouveaux arrivants? Selon vous, rencontrent-ils plus d'obstacles aujourd'hui qu'avant? Et ces obstacles sont-ils toujours les mêmes qu'avant? Et quant aux nouveaux arrivants, demandent-ils davantage à être guidés dans le processus de s'établir au Nouveau-Brunswick?
Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you so much again for the invitation. I think that the first thing that I would like, is this sound good? Sorry, I want to ask. Are you hearing good?
Yes. Yep, we can hear you perfectly. Thank you.
Okay. The first thing that I would like to point out is that the population has been changed, and this is something that have to be, at least for us. Let's put this out. The Multicultural Association of Fredericton mandate for many years was just to serve permanent residents. Then a couple of years ago, we started getting some support from the province. Then we were able to serve temporary foreign workers. but with the pandemic, that put us in two situations, and it's the international students, and international students are not only at the UMB. There are many other organizations that are able in this moment to bring new students to the city and to their programs. And the other part of the newcomers that are arriving to the city, the source are coming from the DRAT program, had been increased substantially. In this moment is almost 400% more that we used to have. This, I don't know if will be a need in this space to make the difference between the source of financial support for them, but the RAP people means the people that are arriving to the city under the resettlement assistance program. They have some support from the federal government for the first year that they will be in Canada. But then after that, there are no support. Then the other sort that we are getting at this moment are Ukrainian. And the last one are coming for the Rossi road. Then we have the asylum seekers that are coming lately to the area. Then if we have, that is giving us all that variety of needs and challenges, of course. And I will say a big challenge will be the basic needs for everybody. And I will say that are no different from any residents of the area. Health, example, has become a really challenges area, because we know all that situation that had been created during the pandemic and after the pandemic. Then that is something that in this moment is still limiting the people, at least at the start, in the safety sense. Yes, the people are now feeling that this is a place that they can be access services in the health area. And if we move a little bit to the housing, that is another big challenge that we have been seeing, because first of all was really reduced opportunities. The housing was really limited, mostly during the pandemic was impossible to get renting places. And in this moment it's opening, but the increase of the prices of the rent is another topic that have to be, it's almost the same proportion of the numbers of the new immigrants. Then housing is a big challenge in this moment, because like we hear, the cost and is amazing. Then the other part is to get the people set in their professional fields. And I think that is another area that it will be important to start calling the unions and the professional association to really review their standards and the requirements to move in the recognition of the diploma and the studies of the people that had the opportunity to do that opportunity to go to the schools. Let's say in this moment, probably I am jumping, but Ukrainian example, they are not getting any financial support from any source. They are coming mostly and the sponsored programs. And they are, in general, they have education, they have professional education, but to get engaged in their works is really hard with all these requirements that are established. One program that had been at least giving hope to the people is the International Educated Healthcare professionals in New Brunswick are working in at this moment is a group that had been created to analyze what is the situation of each one of the cases and then try to support, but at the end, still a lot of barriers in that area. Then I will say there are some that are moving a little farther, but there are some that is still in the same place that probably they established the requirement for international professional, I don't know, probably 50 years ago or something. And I don't know if the association had been able to think about those requirements. And then the other thing that had been mentioned here is the social barriers to get the communication, how we can offer the information to everybody about what are the needs that every person wants to, because like I mentioned, each group have different needs, and at the end, the sources and the way to be able to support have to be different. Then we were talking about the need to support ethno groups that will be at the end of the day a good support for newcomers will be also a need. We have been getting a lot of support also for working New Brunswick in creating programs como Skill Launch. That is a program that has been support youth people that are in that age that they are no age and language competencies that are difficult for them to get engaged with the university or the schools, but also to get training to go out in the labor market. Then I think that those will be, in general, the main thing that I can mention. I don't know if you have any other additional question, and I will be really open to try to respond.
Thank you very much, Marisa. Very interesting. Wondering, in terms of what we can do to improve the landscape, to make New Brunswick a more welcoming place, one of the things that you mentioned is working with the unions and the self-regulated professions to see if there's a way for us to expedite the recognition of foreign accreditation. This is a complaint that I've been hearing for decades, just from my own discussions with people that I know that are, newcomers to Canada. Are you hopeful? Are you seeing any willingness on the part of these organizations to, work to try to, make that process more seamless and to make it easier? Because I do think if we do have that ability in New Brunswick to be more expeditious in recognizing foreign accreditations, it could go a long way in ensuring that these newcomers actually decide to make New Brunswick their permanent home.
Yeah, unfortunately, from I will say from my personal point of view, I don't see. Example, I know that there are ideas like that a new program of the international educated healthcare professionals that is supposed to support, but I think that program was launched 2 years ago, and we're still in the same place. I don't see how those really are rolling to support the opportunities for people that are willing to get engaged. We have doctors that are cleaning, we have, and we need the doctor and we need the nurses, and anyway, how this conversation had been. There is not only that professional, let's talk about labors, carpenters, construction, any area, plumber, anyone that wants to, then they have to have that union recognition in order to get the credential and the opportunity to work or to create. There are many of them, examples that they used to have run their own business, but here is almost impossible to offer a plumber that can be offer their own service. That is no an opportunity to do that really, because the insurance or all those things that we know, and preventing all these people that have the experience and have the knowledge for many years of being carpenters, so again, electricians, and that they are unable to get really in the fit in the places that we need.
Thank you, Marissa. Shelley, I think you've got your hand raised.
Just wanted to mention, and I absolutely agree with Marissa.
Marisa, yes, thank you.
Marissa, that certainly more can be done 100%, but I also think that where I give kudos in particular to different departments at the university, like global learning and engagement, and the acronym is GLE, is they've gone into various countries, or they developed a partnership with a school in India where they are bringing nurses to train to be trained as nurses so they can work in Canada. And so they're thinking out of the box. And McKenna Institute, who sits on our campus, they are like, we are needing coders, or there's a great need for coders in this particular province. And so they are actually reaching out to newcomers and seeing if they would be interested in doing coding boot camp. So there are some initiatives that are really great and in place, but here is where I think there's kind of a stumble. You have to know what you don't know, and you have to know the people to get that information. And I think that's what's missing. Like Karithika had asked me, what do I think is missing? And I think what is missing is there's some really great, phenomenal pockets of information. But if we have one universal, like, how they have, the 411, or like some central place that can tell you, here's what you need, or here's what you can apply for if you're an international student, whether you study or whether you're just here, like, just a central place, like a Service New Brunswick, that you could go to and get all the information that you need to support your life here. And honestly, I will tell you, the students tell me time and time again, the reason they came to New Brunswick is because of the lifestyle, is because of the province and what it offers and the opportunities. And particular students with children love that their children can just, run outside and play and not worry about things. And just the phenomenal aspect of living in an area where you have so much more opportunities is kind of what brings them here.
Thanks, Shelley, for that. So now that we have, and thank you, Marisa, for your input as well. So now that we've have a better idea of the needs and obstacles faced by newcomers, so whether they be skilled workers, entrepreneurs, or students, we'll now move on to the second part of our dialogue and look at the actions put in place to encourage newcomers' active participation in the financial and consumer markets. So maybe Juliette and Nuku will come back to you and ask you what has made you active and committed consumers in New Brunswick.
Juliette, tu veux commencer peut-être?
Oui, alors au début, on a eu une des difficultés aussi pour nous, c'était de comprendre le système des cartes de débit-crédit qui n'existe pas chez nous, et d'accepter le fait d'avoir une carte de crédit. Je dis ça en riant parce que en France, le fait d'avoir un crédit, c'est un petit peu négatif, on va dire. On doit de l'argent, alors qu'ici, c'est quelque chose de vu comme positif, puisqu'on doit avoir une crédibilité, voilà, c'est plutôt ça, avec montrer qu'on sait rembourser de l'argent. Donc ça, déjà, ce système-là, juste ça, pour nous, c'était difficile à assimiler. Et voilà. Après, des consommateurs, vous m'avez dit comment nous sommes devenus des consommateurs actifs?
Oui, c'est ça.
Donc voilà, essayer de comprendre comment ça marche et tout est différent. En fait, on a dû apprendre petit à petit de repérer ne serait-ce que comment faire les courses, où faire les courses avec les systèmes de malls, de centres commerciaux. On n'était pas complètement habitué à ça. Comme on vous a dit, pour des plus gros achats, par exemple la voiture, on ne s'attendait pas à devoir débourser autant au début.
Après, on a les premiers mois après, ce qui nous a un peu aidé, c'est la visite exploratoire. Mais pour compléter ce que disait Juliette, on a compris assez rapidement le système de taxes. Voilà, la TVA, les produits sont hors taxe. Donc, la taxe se paye après. Voilà, donc il y a quelques petites habitudes comme ça qu'on a apprises, mais finalement, les produits qu'on a l'habitude de consommer quand on était en France, en région parisienne, on les retrouve généralement ici. Et donc, du coup, on n'a pas vraiment changé dans notre habitude de consommation. Voilà, on retrouve que ce soit au niveau de l'alimentation. D'ailleurs, on a été agréablement surpris parce que on retrouve, en plus des produits locaux, on retrouve quasiment tous les produits dont on avait l'habitude. Après, il y a quelques spécificités. Les produits qui sont totalement importés sont naturellement plus chers, ce qui est logique. Mais voilà, on retrouve nos produits pour l'alimentation. La petite particularité, c'est qu'il y a certains magasins comme les magasins de mobilier, de meubles ou les grands magasins de produits qu'on va pas retrouver, qu'on va retrouver sur Amazon. Donc, ça, c'est peut-être un petit changement parce que nous, on vient de la région parisienne, donc c'est assez dense comme région avec beaucoup d'accès aux produits. Donc, on pouvait aller dans un magasin, trouver les produits qu'on veut. Et ici, typiquement, on a quelques magasins qui nous fournissent tous les produits, mais les choix peuvent être limités. Donc, on a commandé une ou deux fois sur Internet. Mais en tout cas, pour ma partie, on retrouve en tout cas nos habitudes de consommation parce que les produits sont naturellement les mêmes.
Thank you. I think that's an interesting point in terms of not using your credit card every day, because here it's very rare that we have cash on hand and we use our card for everything and accumulate points. I think many of us do, but so interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Merci beaucoup, Juliette, de nous avoir fait part, en fait, des distinctions, disons, entre les modes de consommation entre la France métropolitaine et le Nouveau-Brunswick. C'est très intéressant, cette perspective que vous nous offrez comme nouveaux arrivants. Pour la prochaine partie, la compréhension des marchés financiers et des marchés de consommation repose en grande partie sur des facteurs culturels et autres, mais comme nous le verrons avec vous, Marissa, il est possible d'apprendre à naviguer dans les nuances. Et d'après votre expérience, pouvez-vous nous en dire plus sur les facteurs et les enseignements qui peuvent aider les nouveaux arrivants à se sentir plus à l'aise sur les marchés financiers et de consommation?
Okay, I think that there are, again, each group of immigrants will behave in different ways. There are some that have to really be very conservative with what they are doing, how they are going to invest. And there are the groups that have, example, the financial support from the government. Sometimes there are decisions that are not the best for them in the long way, but something that we try to encourage, let's say, is in most of the countries around the place that we are getting the newcomers, example, second-hand market is not something that is really in their habit, but we start promoting because in some ways that case example of furniture of cards, it's better sometimes to get until you get really established, until you get your professional field. Getting that is a good thing. But in this moment again, the financial, the problem of most of the newcomers are facing is the big changes in the prices of the products everywhere, about from food that is getting more expensive all the time, to cards or whatever they are looking for. Then the people, when they are starting and getting their plans to come, as we saw in our center, they budgeting themselves for certain amount of time to get their financial to support them. But then when they get here, things happen, and after 3 or 6 months, they would run out of all the resources, and then we ended seeing people in very difficult situation from the financial point of view. And like Cherry said, it's really a lack of information also about how to budgeting here, because it's different that the way that you can do it in your own country, because fresh food is in this corner. Here is not that easy. Anything that the people are in need, change for sure. I don't know if that is, I am responding your question, or is something that. Okay.
No, it's great. Thank you very much, Marisa.
Adebayo, the New Brunswick Multicultural Council helps newcomers to integrate. Can you give us an example of what the council is doing to remove the barriers that hinder their access to financial and consumer markets?
Yes, thank you very much. That's a good question. So for the Multicultural Council, part of the things that the Multicultural Council is doing to eliminate that financial barrier is, first and foremost, you need to understand the barriers. You need to understand the basic problems before fixing the problem. So, and one of the biggest problems is understanding, the kind of like, let's say, understanding the knowledge base, the knowledge gap. For instance, a newcomer arrives here and they lack the understanding, or they don't understand how Canadian markets, operates. For instance, take the example that Juliette just gave. In France, there's nothing like the credit card system. And, coming here, the credit card system, of course, is one of your bread and butter into establishing yourself in Canada, because you have to build your credit system. That tells the community, that tells the system that you're credit worthy, and you have a grasp of let's say, like, of your finances. So you need to understand, and that's where the first thing, NBMC is doing is education. NBMC is out there educating newcomers, and like the link I shared earlier, you see a whole lot of programs. Take, for example, we have the one of the things, they represent MB, or the bridge. One of the programs, they call it the bridge, which is, it allows the youth between the ages of 16 and 20 to upskill their experiential learning abilities, which helps them to be able to transition from school into the labor market. So that's one area. And if you look at it critically, that's like under educating the public on, the financial services out there. Another thing is it's around, helping, or let's say training immigrants. When immigrants come in, they have high expectations, and against what is called reality, which is on ground, that difference is there. And before you know it, it starts affecting their morale, because what they're expecting, they are not getting it. So what we in NBMC will try and do is to, once they come in, we'll educate them and let them know, this is the expectation and this is the reality on ground. You have to start building from scratch. You have to start building, from down to top, not from top to down. So these are some of the things that NBMC is doing to, break that financial barrier. And some of the things, that we're talking about is providing that financial support in terms of like advocacy, in terms of like integration for newcomers, because you need to direct them in the way, the right directions to go. For instance, Shelley talked about how people put their trust in, the Canadian system or Canadians generally. But you have to allow people, demonstrate or build that trust, or you have to allow them earn that trust before you put your trust in them. So how does it relate to what we're saying here? For instance, when newcomers come in, there are several people out there that take advantage of the fact that they are newcomers. For instance, you will receive reports about like landlords or housing companies that take advantage of these people, basically because of the trust. So NBMC is there, going out, educating these people. Here are your rights. Here are your limits. This is what to do, and this is what not to do. So most of what we do is, try to educate newcomers and let them know how to go about, integrating into the community. Another thing is there's a program put together by NBMC, which is Imagine NB, and this is about leadership accelerator for newcomers, where you see, it's all about, recruitment participants and to follow up with newcomers. So when they come, they are so much, they have their dreams up there. And when they come, when all these dreams are not fully, quickly materialized, they start getting worried, and sometimes they just want to leave the province. But with NBMC, we're out there trying to just, let them know that, look, it's one step at a time, and bringing all the, the missing puzzles, bringing them together to build that solution for them. And I think, let me just quickly say, it's just not NBMC alone doing this. There are several cultural organizations and settlement agencies that are equally doing the same. I think somebody said about Ignite NB. Somebody talked about different settlement agencies like the YMCA, and so on and so forth, which are still the body of the Multicultural Council.
Merci beaucoup, Adebayo. Je propose maintenant que nous nous intéressions à présent aux moyens mis en place pour aider les étudiants internationaux. Kirutika, en tant qu'étudiante internationale, comment avez-vous réussi à mieux comprendre le fonctionnement des marchés financiers et des marchés de consommation pour devenir une consommatrice active et engagée?
As I first arrived as a newcomer, like guaranteed investment certificate, which is called as GIC, and checking accounts. These are new terminologies for me. Back in my home country, I know only about savings account and current account and other stuff, but checking account is completely new. Then I later realized that it is for day-to-day banking account. It is like a main account used for day-to-day banking. And these concepts are quite new to me. Whenever I find a new concept or a new scheme, for example, about an investment, I recently heard about registered education savings plan. If I don't know anything about it, I keep asking Shelley that, can you please share some information about it? Or what is the eligibility criteria? Can you please help me in that? I keep asking questions with Shelley, and she patiently explains me, like browsing through the Canadian website, and she explains me how it is and what the plan is about. So this is how I learned few terminologies, but still I'm hesitating to take a car, because if I opt for a car, then I have to go for insurance. And many of my friends are facing a few troubles, like if they go with Indian driving license, and the license, I mean the insurance package is very high. When they go with the Canadian driving license, the package is very less. And there are many things to learn from the this financial market. And one aspect that I particularly become aware was about the credit history, because initially I did not prefer to buy any things on credit. But however, upon arriving here, I realized that having a good credit history is essential. Then I started paying my bills ahead of their due dates, even though I paid my before their due dates, but I started to pay like ahead of their due dates, which helped me to have a positive credit history. Maybe later, if I go for any loans, I hear that the rate of loans would be, interest rate would be reduced, and it will lead to a substantial long-term saving. Like there are like few things we have to be aware before entering into the market. And if I have any doubts, as I said, I was keep asking Shelley and other persons, even the banker, about can you please explain more about this? Do I have any charges or hidden charges? Or how long this benefit I can enjoy? So like fixing an appointment with the banker or through a telephone call, I used to ask a lot of questions, but still I'm hesitating to take the next steps, because I'm unaware of many financial or the consumer markets.
Great, thank you. And I think maybe Shelley, if you need support in explaining some of those financial products, there's some great information on FCNB's website. So the Financial and Consumer Services Commission website, as part of our mandate, is to do education on financial services. So you can always reach out to us as well. We'd be happy to share that with you. And we'll continue with you, Shelley. What has UNB put in place to support students and help them access the financial and consumer markets and become dynamic players?
Well, if I can, I just want to follow up quickly on Krithika's point there. Credit history. So why I actually developed the information brochure is I had hundreds of international students asking me to explain credit history. And I thought, like, I can't have one more conversation about this. I'm just going to put it in an information brochure. And that is exactly what I use. I use all of the tools that I have access to through Financial Consumer Agency of New Brunswick, Financial Consumer Agency of Canada. There's so many people I've met over my career who have such phenomenal information, and I tell students about it. They always ask me about budgeting. I use the FCAC budgeting tool. I also take advantage of the FCAC, where you can kind of do cross comparison between banks and see what's the better bank for you, because there's so much information out there. I want students to do their own exploration as well, so they can find out what tool works for them. And I find a lot of international students will ask me about budgeting, but reality is, and I'm not sure who said it, that they are coming with a certain amount of money with the expectation that it is going to be sufficient. And so it's only sometimes when they get to me that they understand that it's not sufficient. And it's a tough conversation because you came to Canada with the expectation that you're good. And I'm here telling you, and I'm just, a tall person talking to you, and they're thinking like, this is, ridiculous. But the thing of it is, there are so many sites out there that have misinformation. And part of the research Krithika and I did was what is out there, what is being told to international students, and that was part of our report. So there are sites in Canada that actually tell from immigration, that tell the actual cost of living, which we actually put in our report per region, which are absolutely phenomenal. But that is sometimes not what students are being told. They're being told, well, if you have $5,000 or $10,000, that's good for living costs. Well, maybe 10 years ago, that might be fine for living costs, but not post-pandemic. That is not going to cut it. So I spend a lot of my time actually telling students what, supports are out there when I'm actually talking about budgeting, because they don't expect the cost of living to be so high, in particular in Fredericton. But there are many areas that have high cost of living. So I would say I try and make it fun. Krithika keeps teasing me. She wants to go to one of my presentations because I want students to be engaged in the presentation. So I use, social media. I use Kahoot. I use types of media that makes it fun for the learning experience. So students aren't listening to a talking head all the time. So I actually do this with domestic students as well as international students. So I see from my Kahoot, and a Kahoot is like a game that, tests your knowledge, see where you are on the information, which helps me with my baseline. Because when students get the information incorrect in the game, then I can go, well, actually, here's the answer. And to be honest, I remember it better than if I'm there dry talking or if I'm there PowerPoint after PowerPoint. I think when students are engaged in the presentation, they find the information far more exciting, far more interesting. And I think the thing that I deal with a lot of times, and you probably deal with as well, is a lot of government agencies use acronyms. And this is not new. This is something that's been going on for years. And I work with student financial assistance for a number of years across Canada and the US. And the acronyms, like you actually need, and Krithika and I are doing it in our research, we're actually doing a compendium of all of the tools of the names, because if you're not from this country, you don't know what a GST is, you don't know what RESP is, you don't know what a GIC is. Like, there are so many acronyms that people go with the expectation that you should know this information. And I keep saying, well, why would you? You didn't, you weren't born here, you didn't grow up here. And quite frankly, there's a lot of information that a lot of students don't know who did grow up here, who were born here. So I think that the government in itself has to understand that this is your opportunity to train, whether you're an international student, whether you're a youth. This is an opportunity to train and tell them about the markets. There's a lot of high schools that have stopped doing training. My daughter went through French immersion. And in the French immersion program, they had a phenomenal program. I actually took it to my daughter's high school in an English version of it to see if it could be done combined, like English and French, because it was phenomenal. Because students always ask me, how do I read a paycheck? That is something we take for granted, that people know what the deductions are. And the constant question I kept getting asked is, how do I file my income tax return so I can get the GST rebate? So we actually brought the community volunteer income tax program on site at the university, so students can apply here without really going off site to do it. So we try and listen to what the needs that are coming forward to us and allow students to have access to this information at no charge, because that to me is an issue when, people are being taken advantage of. That is, unfair use of them and unfair use of their resources. So I would say also the main site that I just want to mention, because Krithka and I were talking about, is in reference to the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce. And I'm sure this is true of all Chamber of Commerces, but I only work with the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce. They have a 2-year membership that they give free to MBA students, and they have a immigration advocacy committee. Like, there's ways to get involved, to learn about opportunities here in Fredericton or around New Brunswick. Ignite Fredericton has a phenomenal integration success program, and I believe Krithika took the economic empowerment program for newcomers. Like, the resources are there, and absolutely take advantage of them, because as DeBeo had said, it's bringing your base knowledge higher. So when people have those conversations with you about GIC, about filing your income tax, what the benefits are, it makes much more sense to you and the benefits of it. So I absolutely use all of the consumer products out there and use them to the advantage of students, so it doesn't cost them anything.
Thank you so much. So we're nearing the end of the dialogue. I will put out a last call for any questions. If you want to pop those in to the Q&A section, please do so. And while we give a few minutes for that, perhaps I'll just open it up to the panelists, for any conclusion remarks that you might have, or any final tips and or information that you would like to share. And I won't call on anyone specifically, but just feel free to put your hand up and share some final thoughts. Shelley, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to mention this because I've been doing research for a number of years, but there was research done on payday loans and why they were so successful. And payday loans, for those of you, just to give you a brief synopsis, I'm not promoting them at all. So payday loans take advantage of everyone, including, international, Canadian. So you go to this agency, you borrow money, they charge you astronomical, interest and fees, and but we couldn't understand, because we even struggled with our domestic students. They were going and cashing checks with them, and so they'd only get a small portion of the check back, and we didn't understand why. So research actually came out that they take advantage of developing that sense of community. They talk to people where they're at. They're very friendly. They get to know you, your family. They develop a relationship with you so that you're more interested in working with somebody who knows you, who knows your family. They try and develop a relationship, but it's a way of manipulating you. And I actually did focus groups with students, international and Indigenous students, as part of research for FCAC. And the research showed that a lot of the reasons that students, in particular, my research was only student focused, felt, uncomfortable going to the banks, is because they felt that they were off-putting. They didn't find them as friendly, as welcoming as they did in other areas. So in reference to your question, what could we do to improve support services for students, is be welcoming, be friendly, let them know that they matter to us and that we're there to help them.
Thank you for that. I've made note of that as well. So, and we'll pass it along internally. I think that's very interesting to hear. Adebayo, you had a comment?
Yes, thank you very much. Just to just quickly put this out, I think there's really no one size approach that fits all in eradicating barriers to financial barriers out there. But I think, I just have a couple of information to just quickly share. This is something that, it's everyone's business. It's not just NBMC alone. It's just not New Brunswick, University of New Brunswick, or multicultural organizations to help newcomers settle in New Brunswick. It's our collective effort. Let's try as much as we can in all our various organizations to put out this awareness, this information, this education out there, so that we can actually help newcomers, and we can support them in terms of like their financial integration, participation, and help them to continue and benefit from the economic growth and development of New Brunswick. We can all be the advocate for newcomers and their interests, especially in the areas of how the consumer markets are in place. For those of us that have been here for a while, can actually help them. Then let's try as much as we can to engage newcomers, to listen to their needs, their preferences. Let's listen to their goals, and and get the feedback from them. So that will help us as well to know what we are doing wrong and what we're doing right. So we can keep doing what we're doing right and improve on the things we're doing wrong, so that collectively we'll all build a New Brunswick of our choice, and what we intend to see in the few years to come.
Thank you very much, Adebayo. Tolan, in terms of questions and answers, just quickly looking at the Q&A feature, is there an additional question that we haven't answered in looking at those?
Yes, and I think it's a little bit along the same line as one we had discussed earlier, but we can certainly, there is time to elaborate on it. So if you want to go ahead and pose it, Jason, we can.
Yeah, about an hour ago, one of the attendees asked whether New Brunswick was doing enough to keep new families here. And the example that they used, we've had many newcomers to Canada from China that have moved on to other parts of Canada, mostly larger city centers, because they met or satisfied the requirements under the New Brunswick provincial program obligations to settle here, and then used it as a stepping stone. So I guess this would be sort of an open question. I don't know if any of our participants would like to weigh in on this question. But you're right, Tolan, I think we did allude to it earlier, but if we do have some time, maybe people would like to elaborate further on it. Adebayo?
Yeah, thank you very much, Jason. Just to quickly say, I did mention earlier, I said it's a collective effort. It's just not one person's, effort to keep them. Yes, we've seen it before. Like I did use the example for the Nigerian community that before now, and especially international students, they come, and once they are through their program, they go out there, to the bigger cities where they have the opportunities. But things have changed now. We have organizations, ethnocultural organizations that look like them, standing up to build that confidence, to build that community where they can actually stay. When they see people that look like them, the chances that they will stay in New Brunswick is high. So, and that's what we keep doing by encouraging them to stay. For instance, while I lived in Fredericton before, and I know there's this program that I participated in, and that's the study and stay program that was actually carried out by the city of Fredericton. It was a good opportunity for me, being someone that came in at a point in time, and I've learned the ropes and I've seen how things are done. I volunteered in that service, and part of the things we did there was to help international students, graduates, network in the community and introduce them like to prospects that can actually employ them. So what am I trying to say? Every one of us is our collective responsibility. Let's learn to volunteer. Let's learn to participate, and let's learn to give back to the community, especially where we benefited. If we keep doing these things, we will retain these talents and they will stay. And also, another important part that things we need to do is the entrepreneurship. If we look into entrepreneurs, it's going to help because one, it helps creating more jobs, and it also helps these immigrants to understand that we look after them and the government is interested in them building their businesses. So that way they will stay. And let's equally start, speaking to the government and the banking sector on how to start, giving loans. And I think most people don't really understand. There's a program, that's run by NBMC, and that's the Atlantic Immigrants Career Loan Fund, AICLF. I think newcomers need to queue into that program because it gives you funding. It helps you start. Building your own businesses, and as a result of that, that helps you, stay in here and create more jobs, and it helps you find your feet. So, like Shelley equally said, you need to understand how to seek for that information. Learn to use online services. Look at those information. There's really nothing you need with third-party people helping you. The informations are, they are out there online. Just learn to source for those information. And conclusively, I think Purifica said, if you are in doubt, ask. If you don't know anything, look for people around you and ask them, how do I go about this? I'm sure there are many people out there that will be willing to help. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adebayo, for weighing in on that. Just in terms of other questions, I think the only other question that has been raised was actually in the chat function. And for those of you that are in attendance who haven't actually gone in and looked at the webinar chat, we did have a question from Sandra Batten, who was wondering if there exist translation services to assist in understanding such things as insurance applications, contracts, and wording. And wordings is a service available to newcomers in need of such products. And Jacqueline McLean did respond that newcomers are welcome to seek help with budget mentoring, credit counseling, financial guidance, and debt solutions with their not-for-profit organization, solveyourdebts.com. And the website address URL is in the chat room. They do offer free counseling services within Atlantic Canada and Quebec. So Tolin, in terms of time, I think we're very much spot on. I think we're near the end of the public dialogue.
That's right, Jason. And, maybe we'll close it off by saying a big thank you to all of our panelists today. So Juliette and Nuku, Adebayo, Irutsika, Shelley, Marisa, as well as all of our partners that have made this possible. So Rogers TV, the translation team, and anyone that has helped with the moderation of the webinar. So thank you so much. Merci de nous avoir suivis. Jason, do you have any final words?
Just as a reminder, for those of you that attended the public dialogue, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. If you could spare a few minutes to fill out the feedback survey, it would be greatly appreciated. Pour ceux et celles d'entre vous qui se sont joints à nous cet après-midi, si vous êtes en mesure de prendre quelques instants pour remplir notre enquête de satisfaction, vous retrouverez les renseignements dans la fonction clavardage. The SurveyMonkey link for the survey is available in the webinar chat. And again, as Jolene just thanked everybody, j'aimerais aussi en profiter de remercier les panélistes, Juliette Desnos, Nuku Akolatse, Adebayo, Karithika, Shelley, Marisa. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Muchas gracias, everyone. Also, many thanks. Merci beaucoup à la Commission des services financiers et des services aux consommateurs avec qui nous avons eu le plaisir de collaborer pour organiser ce dialogue public. Again, thank you very much. Merci de nous avoir suivis. Thank you. Wala Waliwan. And we wish you all a great day. Thank you very much for joining us, everyone. Merci beaucoup de vous être joints à nous cet après-midi.
Merci, thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
See? Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye
Thank you
bye.
very much.